Welcome to the MrpTech Podcast. This is episode 38. My name is Matt, and this is a weekly podcast where I talk about everyday tech for everyday people. Thanks so much for joining us this week. We've got a great episode lined up for you. And I was so excited this week. I was ecstatic. I was ready to go for this episode. And last week I briefly mentioned that I was so excited that this week would be the SpaceX return to flight. And it was supposed to happen this Friday, and apparently the FAA chose to kill my excitement and not grant SpaceX its license to start relaunching again after the explosion that happened this past September. Well, now we're looking at a return to flight for the first week in January, and it completely destroyed my plans for this entire episode right from the get-go. So what am I going to do today? You're going to find out shortly. I've got a lot of fun things lined up for you. But first, before we get into all of that, let's get into a little bit of feedback here from some listeners. A few weeks ago, I mentioned I was looking for an iTunes alternative, and that I've used things like Rhythmbox in the past, and I wasn't really thrilled, let's say, with Rhythmbox and some of the features that it had. It's a great app, but just not something that I want to use on a weekly basis or even daily basis. Well, a few listeners emailed in and mentioned a few things that I want to try over the next few weeks, and one of them I have tried before, and that's Clementine. But another listener wrote in saying to give Sayonara a try, and I'm looking forward to giving that a try. I know I've been so busy over the last week. I have had 4 concerts, 2 of them with school, 2 of them with a professional group. I have also been working on some things around the house, and I've also been stuck in the middle of a snowstorm. I have one more concert tonight, and on top of that, we have all of the holiday shopping to deal with over the next few weeks. And so I haven't had a chance to give Sayonara a try. Once I do, I will come back and I will give my feedback to that particular listener and any other listener who has recommended this for me to try to replace iTunes. I have, however, tried Clementine in the past, several years ago, and just like Rhythmbox, Clementine wasn't my thing, but maybe, since I haven't tried it in a few years, maybe I'll do a side-by-side comparison of Sayonara and Clementine, and we'll see which one works for me. Maybe I can give a recommendation to you all after I do that. So here we go. I was all excited about this upcoming rocket launch this Friday, and SpaceX had said, we found the problem. We understand the issues that we've had that caused the explosion in the first week of September. And following the news stories, I would hear of those who live near McGregor, Texas, or those who live near SpaceX's test facilities in McGregor, Texas, that they started hearing rumblings more frequently, and it sounded like they were testing rockets again. And shortly thereafter, you would start hearing various explosions at different points during the day. Now, normally explosions would mean a bad thing, and if you live close by, not knowing when an explosion was going to occur, I would imagine that it must be quite surreal to live next to a test facility like this and never know where or when something like this is going to happen. Now, to give you an example, I live about a half a mile from a quarry, and every day at a certain time, this quarry will blast. And even when I know it's going to happen, usually it's around the same time, around 11 o'clock in the morning, it scares the heck out of me. I can't even imagine what a rocket explosion every so often at infrequent times would do. And living next to this and hearing these rumbles, hearing these explosions, tells me that SpaceX narrowed in on what it was they were trying to find in the Falcon 9 rockets that led to a rapid unscheduled disassembly, as they call it. And these explosions became more and more, and there were several within a week period. And that kind of showed me that maybe they found the issue, and then locals were explaining that they were hearing significantly longer burns, meaning that they're testing their rockets again for launch times. And they would burn for however long these rockets would burn in the atmosphere. So that to me tells me that they may have solved their fueling issues that they had, and they were ready to move on. Well, that's great, but also at the same time, you need to apply for an FAA license in order to be launching rockets on a regular basis. And a lot more goes into that. So the launch exactly was pushed into early January. And there's even some skepticism now that are saying, they're still finalizing their investigation, and they're working on completing the final steps necessary to be safe and reliable when it comes to returning to flight. And so a lot more goes into this, and you need inspectors, you need air traffic control, you need to have the payload reviewed, and this all could take a long time. So SpaceX normally has the frame of mind of moving forward and at a great pace, but bureaucracy may step in the way there. So again, I was trying to figure out what exactly I was going to do in this episode, and I came across a great app that I want to talk to you all about today. And it has the same exact theme as I was originally going to talk about, so it worked out well. Over the weekend, out of the blue, I came across an app for iOS, and it's also available for Android after I did a little research. And this app is called Space Rocket First Stage Landing Simulator. And what this is the SpaceX first stage rocket landing turned into a game, minus all of the SpaceX branding. And I can't begin to tell you how addicting this game is. So to give you just a little bit of information from the app developer, it says this game shows how hard it is to recover the first stage of a rocket, and you try to land as smoothly as you can. Now, there are two different stages right now, one at sea and one at land, and there are 4 stages total, 2 of them at sea, 2 of them at land. And what you try to do is you're trying to return this rocket from the atmosphere onto either a barge or like a bullseye target on land. So right now, most rockets are destroyed or lost after they launch into space, meaning entirely new rockets must be built for each mission. And reusable rockets are the future, and they're a critical aspect to reducing the cost of going to space. And before space tourism becomes a reality, we're going to need to enable our rockets to be reused. So this game kind of shows and teaches you the difficulties of landing rockets out to sea and on land. Now, earlier this week, I tried playing this game, and I got addicted to it really fast. And what I did just before recording this podcast is I recorded a short video, and I posted it on my YouTube channel. You can search for MrpTech. And this is a video review of this game with some of the gameplay. The gameplay is very basic. You have a rocket dropping from the sky, and you have left and right controls, and you also have a button to control the burn of the rocket. And so you can adjust where the rocket is and where it's landing using those controls. And if you miss the barge in the ocean, you're going to take the rocket for a swim. And if you don't land the rocket in the correct way, the rocket will tip over and it will explode. Now, if you've ever seen the real SpaceX rockets, they're available on YouTube. You can go watch the videos. Some of them explode in certain ways. And this app developer did a really nice job comparing the game to the actual rockets that exploded on these experimental landings. And the sound effects are okay. The game seems to be early in development right now. And as I wrote a review to the developer, I stated that there's a lot of things that they can do to improve gameplay with this rocket landing attempts. As you sort of play, you sort of hone in your skills and you develop a feel for how the game works. And it's not something that you're going to want to play for hours and hours, but if you have a few minutes to kill here or there, it's kind of a fun app to try out, especially if you're interested in these SpaceX launch and landings. As I mentioned earlier, it's early in development. I think the game first came out in September, but I was only made aware of it this past week. And one of the things that I was thinking as I was watching and playing this game is that wouldn't it be great? I know they can't have the SpaceX branding for various legal reasons, but since they're landing what obviously looks like a Falcon 9, why can't they look towards the future and develop this game to have more things along Elon Musk's ideas, such as let's put the interplanetary transport system vehicle in this game and have different environments where you can land, such as the moon or Mars or various other places with different gravities and different aspects that you have to overcome in order to get these landings down. Another way I think this game would be a lot more fun is if you could actually launch the rockets themselves and separate the first stage and then return the rocket to a land. So this game has a lot of growth that I could see. And just what it has so far, the first 4 stages, 2 are on by sea landings, the other are landings such as what you would see at Cape Canaveral on the land. There's a lot of things that I could see this game developing into that would make it even more fun for people who are interested in rockets themselves. So again, this app is called Space Rocket First Stage Landing Simulator. And if you're looking for something to waste your time, this is a game to just try out, and it's a free game. Now, when I read the reviews for this game, a lot of people were complaining about the ads. They were saying there was too many ads for a free game, and they would rather pay $1.99 and never have to pay anything else for it. I'm okay with the ads, and here's why. This game, I don't think I would have purchased it if it wasn't free right off the bat. I'm okay with the ads, and I didn't find them all that intrusive or obtrusive to gameplay. When you first open the app, all 4 stages are locked, and you need to watch a commercial, 30-second commercial, to be able to unlock and play that particular stage. And then as you're playing the game, every so often, as you fail multiple times, or I'm not sure if it's a set time frame or if it is a certain amount of times that you crash the rockets, every so often you'll have another commercial that you must watch in order to keep playing. It's really not anything that I found that upset me and stopped me from wanting to try to play the game. So that's the only comment that I've seen of negative comments about the game, that there are some ads, but it's a free game, and if you're not going to pay for it, that's the best way to do it, to ensure that the developers get paid to create these things. And so I'm going to reach out to the developers and try to get them some of my ideas, and hopefully in the future this will be a really fun game for anybody interested in rocket science. Again, it's available on iOS and Android, and I found that the more current device that you have, the more powerful device that you have, the better gameplay you're going to have. Some people with older devices complained that it wasn't really working well. I was using on an iPhone 6S and iPad Mini 2. Everything seemed to be working great. I have not been able to try it on Android because I do not have any Android devices. So over the next few weeks, what I'm going to do is I'd like to test out some more of these iTunes alternatives, as mentioned earlier. I would also like to continue my journey with Ubuntu Studio, and I have some apps that I've been working behind the scenes with that I know in the past a few people have asked me to review, such as MuseScore, a music notation software. I really want to get back to doing something that some of my early listeners had asked me to do. And that's my goal over the next few weeks, is to finish up a few projects that I've been working on the side and tell you about those. And then hopefully in early January, get back to the SpaceX topic one last time for the SpaceX return to flight. So with that said, I have one last topic that I want to talk about in regards to a previous episode prior to when I joined the Podnuts network that I did on Hanson Robotics. And in that episode, I discussed the 2045 initiative and the various means and measures of those in this world that would like to create artificial intelligence so lifelike you cannot distinguish them between ourselves and other life forms out there. And that seems to be an interest for a lot of people these days. And I came in touch this week with a man named Rob Lone, who is working on a documentary about David Hanson. And this documentary is called Citizens of the Future. It is produced by a company called The Old County and will eventually be aired, I believe, in England on TV and distributed on video as well. Currently, this documentary is in early development, and I have offered to extend my help in any way that they need from me to discuss Hanson Robotics in a positive way. And so in the future, what I might do is, once things come together a little bit more for this documentary, I'll send some more information to my listeners and all of you who are listening who might be interested in this type of thing where it's artificial intelligence, citizens of the future, and regarding, our inevitable approach to the singularity where we are ourselves are combined with technology in ways that we could never imagine before. So again, that documentary is called Citizens of the Future. And who knows, in the future, for this podcast, I may reach out and try to get some more interviews specifically for this documentary. But right now, that's sort of a technological hurdle for me in the way that I record these podcasts. So interviews are a goal for me in the future. I'm just not really set up for it at this time. And I know, things like Skype and Google Hangouts make it really easy to do. The problem for me is recording time and finding time to get those interviews done in a way that's possible for me to actually publish them. Right now, it's very difficult for me to do, but in the future, I hope to do more interviews. So if you're sort of listening and you're someone like me who listens to podcasts and you enjoy the interaction between two people, that's something that I am thinking and considering almost every episode in ways that I can do different things to make this podcast more interesting. So if you have some feedback for me, I really would like the feedback, anything to do with my shows, or give me show topics. You can send me an email. It's mrptechreviews@gmail.com. You can also check out my Patreon page. It's patreon.com/mrptech. And I also have a Facebook page, facebook.com/mrptechreviews. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you next time.